because of the appalling shouting by the neo-Nazis at the Welcome to Country in various Anzac Day ceremonies, in acknowledging that we're on Wajak Noongar and that we're in Walyap, I just wanted to read to you a statement made by the late Dr. Yunupingu in his Romotangu submission to the Constitutional Inquiry about Aboriginal people being the First Nations people. And to me, it summarises so beautifully what we need to say and what we need to understand. What Aboriginal people ask is that the modern world now makes the sacrifices necessary to give us a real future, to relax its grip on us, to let us breathe, to let us be free of the determined control exerted on us to make us like you. And you should take that a step further and recognise us for who we are, not what you want us to be. Let us be who we are, Aboriginal people in a modern world, and be proud of us. Acknowledge that we have survived the worst that the past has thrown at us, and we are here with our songs, our ceremonies, our land, our language, and our people, our full identity. What a gift this is we can give you if you choose to accept us in a meaningful way. Have you got goosebumps? I've got more than goosebumps. So that's acknowledgement of country. And it's all right, Richard, I've only got 5 more quotes. Good. So this is a poem by one of my favourite poets, Ali Cobby Etterman. She won the International Poetry Prize 5 years ago, a Kaurna woman from South Australia that nobody knew about. And when the media found out that she'd won the prize, Rupert Murdoch's media said she was an Aboriginal woman living in a caravan, but she'd gone out on country to get more stories. Anyway, this is a poem called I Tell You True. And I just wish the neo-Nazi guys would read this poem. Of course they won't. I can't stop drinking, I tell you true, since I watched my daughter perish. She burnt to death inside a car. I lost what I most cherished. I seen the angels holding her as I screamed with useless hope. I can't stop drinking, I tell you true. It's the only way I coped. I can't stop drinking, I tell you true, since I found my sister dead. She hung herself to stop the rapes. I found her in the shed. The rapist bastard still lives here, unpunished in this town. I can't stop drinking, I tell you true, since I cut her down. I can't stop drinking, I tell you true, since my mother passed away. They found her battered down the creek. I miss her more each day. My family blamed me for her death. Their words have made me wild. I can't stop drinking, I tell you true, because I was just a child. So if you see someone like me who's drunk and loud and cursing, don't judge too hard, because you don't know what sorrows we are nursing. That's my other contribution to Welcome to Country. Sorry, one more. And to introduce Richard Dennis, who is absolutely one of the heroes of this country, runs the Australia Institute, puts out the most important analyses of all of the major issues facing us, not just as a country, but as a planet. I thought it would be very good to introduce him with a 1968 quote from Robert Kennedy, Sr. For too much and too long, we seem to have surrendered community excellence and community values in the mere accumulation of material things. Our gross national product, if we should judge the United States of America by that, counts air pollution and cigarette advertising, ambulance to clear our highways of carnage. It counts special locks for our doors and the jails for those who break them. It counts the destruction of our redwoods and the loss of our natural wonder in chaotic sprawl. It counts napalm and the cost of nuclear warhead and armoured cars for police who fight riots in our streets. It counts Whitman's rifle and Speck's knife and the television programs which glorify violence in order to sell toys to our children. Yet the gross national product does not allow for the health of our children, the quality of their education or the joy of their play. It does not include the beauty of our poetry and the strength of our marriages, the intelligence of public debate, or the integrity of public officials. It measures neither our wit nor our courage, neither our wisdom nor our learning, neither our compassion nor our devotion to our country. It measures everything, in short, except that which makes life worthwhile. and it tells us everything about America except why we are proud that we are Americans. So that was put out in 1968. And Richard, I sort of dedicate that tonight to you, because to me, what you're trying to do is to do what Robert Kennedy was doing in that statement, which is to make us aware of the incredible importance of the good things that we need to happen in Australia. So yet another night of really fantastic presentation from Richard Dennis, and I've been honoured to introduce you. Thank you very much. Thank you.
Thanks, everyone. I told you we'd get the AV working. And how about another round of applause for Dr. Fiona Stanley?
Yeah.
I'm going to talk about a lot of anger-making things tonight, but I want to start with something really important, and that is that individuals can and do make a difference. I know that's not a very cool thing to say these days, but I mean it literally. When you have someone like Professor Stanley who dedicated her life to helping people, well, guess what? You can help a lot of people. So I just think we should never lose sight of the fact that whether it's individuals doing their own thing or whether it's individuals coming together in a room like this to form a community, of course we can and we will change things. Whether we win or not, that's what's up for grabs. But I think the most powerful myth that the right has these days is to convince progressives that there's no chance, that there's no change, that what we do as individuals don't matter, that what we do as a community doesn't matter. And I don't know if lucky is the right word, but we live in a point in time where it's quite easy to explain to people how important it is, for example, that we think about things like who we vote for, because no matter what you think of democracy, ask yourself, if you live in America, did it matter that Donald Trump won? It's a bit hard to tell yourself that all politicians are the same, isn't it? Bit hard to say that who we vote for doesn't make a difference when we're watching in real time. We're watching in real time an individual who won an election make a real difference. Thatcher made a real difference. Reagan made a real difference. Whitlam made a real difference. So anyway, it's not quite why we're here tonight, but I think it's always really important to think big about the fact that we can change things, and we likely will change things. Whether we win or not, I don't know, but I know that the world will look different in 10 years' time, and the decisions we make today will affect that. Thanks so much for coming here tonight to talk about what I think is one of the biggest issues in the world, and certainly an issue that intersects with nearly everything else in the world. Thanks to Hannah and other people who helped organise it. Thanks for Fiona for what a wonderful introduction. And yeah, that quote from Robert Kennedy Sr. is so important. So important that we understand that we, as individuals again, and working together, have enormous agency, have enormous influence in not just the decisions we make individually, but the decisions we make together. That famous Robert Kennedy quote, I do encourage you to Google it. Just Google Robert Kennedy quote, GDP. It'll come up. What he's really saying is what's happened in America. Why is it that when we talk about gross domestic product, when we talk about GDP, why is it that we think that, Whitman buying a rifle to assassinate someone is the same as spending money on a teacher or a nurse? How weird is it to think that all that matters is how much money that got spent rather than what did it get spent on and how did that make us feel? Well, what's that got to do with fossil fuels? Well, pretty much everything. Because the main reason that we're told that we have to cause catastrophic climate change, the main reason we have to do that is it's good for the economy. That's the main reason, isn't it? Like when you hear politicians, like, why are we still approving new coal? Why are we still approving new gas? Why are you subsidizing coal and gas? Why are you doing this? Oh, it's good for the economy. Well, the Kennedy quote is, well, what is the economy? GDP. It's just an indicator. It's just some numbers. So to be clear, there's no doubt that in Western Australia, a very, very, very large amount of gas is exported from Western Australia. You know, is that good for the economy? I'll come back to that in a minute. But just keep in mind, the whole idea is we have to do this harmful thing. No one's disputing anymore. Climate skeptics have kind of run away. I don't know if you've noticed. No one's disputing that burning enormous amounts of coal and gas will cause climate change. We're now just getting told that, we kind of got to. It's the backbone of the economy. It's the backbone. We need to do it. Now, if someone came and said to you, I'd like to give you a pay rise, I'm going to give your family more income, it'll kill you. But your family income will definitely go up before you die. Depending on what your sense of what's good for you, what's good for your family, you might take that job. But I think most people would think, no, I don't think that's such a great idea. But we're being told as a nation that if we do a thing that will cause catastrophic climate change, that's okay. It'll be good for national income. Be good for GDP. Now, to be clear, there's no rule book for this. There's nothing in the Constitution that says we should be sensible. There's nothing in the Constitution that says we should think about the future. There's nothing in the Constitution that says we should be nice. All the Constitution does is kind of tell us how to elect people and what they can do once they get elected. What they promise to do, whether they do it, Constitution's silent on that. So to be clear, if we want to do really dumb shit, no one's going to stop us. There's no umpire. Mum and dad aren't going to come home and say, what are you doing? You're killing your sister. These are choices that we, the royal we, all of us, we make together, and no one's going to stop us. If we want to cause catastrophic climate change so we can sell some more gas, no one's going to stop us. So here we are in Australia, one of the richest countries in the world, living at the richest point in world history. And we're one of the biggest energy exporters in the world. Indeed, we're the third biggest fossil fuel exporter in the world. Saudi Arabia 1, Russia 2, Australia 3. Third biggest fossil fuel exporter in the world. And if our plans play out, we're going to knock off those pesky Russians. Okay, we're going for number 2. We're not sure if we can knock off the Saudis, but we're going to try. This is our national goal. I don't know about you, but maybe the person sitting next to you, someone must want this, because we're trying to expand our gas production right now. We're trying to expand our coal production right now. That's what we're doing. We're already the third biggest in the world. We're pushing for 2. Maybe we can get to 1. But get this for weird. Here we are, one of the biggest fossil fuel exporters in the world. And in the last few years, the price of gas and the price of coal went through the roof. So the price for the thing that we export in huge quantities, fossil fuels, went up. So we're one of the biggest exporters of fossil fuels in the world. The price of fossil fuels went up. So you must all be feeling pretty rich now, huh? Like, that's how it works, yeah? Like, Australia exports lots of coal. Australia exports lots of gas. And the price of oil and coal and gas went up. So Australia must be rich now, yeah? And you must be feeling rich, right? We live in a country that's so dumb that when the world price of the stuff we export went up, we go, oh no, There's a cost of living crisis. Have you heard energy's expensive? If you owned a strawberry farm and the price of strawberries doubled, would you feel happy or sad? Come on, it's a test. I haven't heard the answer. Happy. If you had a mango farm and the price of mangoes doubled, would you feel happy or sad? If you're the third largest exporter of fossil fuels in the world and the price of exports of fossil fuels doubled, would you feel happy or sad? Sad. Sad. Oh, it's an energy crisis. Oh, it's a cost of living crisis. No, it's just dumb. We're literally, choosing my words carefully here, we're literally giving gas away for free. For free. For zero. Imagine if you were a baker and someone said, would you like free flour? Sounds good. Imagine you were a builder and someone said, would you like free bricks? Sounds good. Not something that usually happens. But in Australia, oh, you want to sell gas to the rest of the world. Would you like the gas for free? Sure. Complicated, isn't it? I'm an economist. Economics is really hard. Numbers, spreadsheets. Complicated. Modelling. It's not complicated. The stuff that we export went up in price and we feel poor. And that's because Australia doesn't export gas. It's because you don't export gas. It's because some foreign companies export gas. And when the price doubles, their profit goes through the roof. And that's their profit, not yours. Now, this is not an accident. This is not a loophole. This is not secret. This is the system we've designed. So you're told that we need to expand gas production to make Australia rich. And if we expand enough gas, we'll be rich. Gas production's gone up 300% in Australia in the last 10 years. Gas production is up 300%. So are you feeling 3 times richer? Maybe only twice as rich. How do you square the circle here? Not complicated. Again, these are foreign companies, overwhelmingly foreign-owned companies that are selling the gas. And to be clear, not breaking the law. Good on them. Well played. There's a gas company called Impex, almost 100% foreign-owned, mainly Japanese-owned. Japanese government owns 20% of it. Impex exports more gas each year from Australia. Impex exports more gas each year from Australia than all the gas used in Queensland, New South Wales and Victoria combined. Impex, Japanese-owned company, exports more gas than all the gas used in New South Wales, Queensland and Victoria. Do you know how much company tax it's paid? 0. You know how much it's paid in royalties? 0. You know how much it's paid in petroleum resource rent tax? 0. Well played, Impex. But here's the weird part. As Fiona said with the Robert Kennedy quote, every single cent of those exports counts towards Australia's gross domestic product. It counts in our national income. It counts when we talk about economic growth. It counts. It just doesn't contribute anything to us. In WA, the state government gets more revenue from car registration and speeding fines than it gets from gas royalties. We just say that again. The West Australian government gets more revenue from car rego and speeding fines from royalties from the gas industry. Anyone here ever got caught speeding? Come on, show of hands. Thank you. You're the backbone of the economy. Yeah, exactly. Thank you for all your support. You're what's paying for the nurses. You're what's paying for the teachers. And you know where all this information comes from? These top secret documents called the budget papers. They're available on this thing called the internet. You should check it out. So that's how rich we are in Australia. We're so rich and we're so kind and we're so generous that we can give companies like Impex, plucky little startups like Chevron, BP, all these innovative companies that just come here to help grow our economy. Some people think Australians are a racist mob. Some think we're xenophobic. Some think we don't really care about other countries or foreign aid. Bullshit. We are very generous to Chevron. We are very generous to BP. We are very generous to Impex. Yeah. And Woodside, you bet. And get this, Japan has no gas. There's no gas in Japan at all. It's like they've got a spineless economy. I don't know how they even exist. How do you live without a gas? I don't know, most countries in the world do. But anyway, leaving that aside, Japan doesn't have any gas. But get this, Japan exports gas. And that's not even the punchline. Japan exports more gas. Japan exports more gas than we sell to Japan. Japan doesn't need our gas. They just get it for free, sell it to other people and make a fortune. Well done them. That's how rich we are. That's how generous we are. And all of those exports count in our GDP. But I promise you, in Saudi Arabia, when the price of oil shot through the roof, the Saudis felt rich. I promise you, in Qatar, when the price of gas went through the roof, the Qataris felt rich. But in Australia, the people we have elected to represent us, the people we have elected to make decisions on our behalf, the people we've elected to negotiate with Chevron and BP and Impex, the people we have elected, our delegates, have done such a terrible job of it that the Japanese, who don't have any gas, make a fortune selling gas. Complicated, isn't it? In Norway, they tax the gas industry very heavily. They tax the gas industry very heavily and they give their kids free university education. In Australia, we subsidise the gas industry and we give them free gas and we charge our kids a fortune to go to uni. Remember I said at the beginning the choices we make as individuals matter? Other countries are just looking at us and laughing. We are the third largest fossil fuel exporter in the world. We feel poor in the middle of an energy burn. According to research we've done at the Australian Institute, we estimate that we're such a generous folk, we've given away $170 billion worth of free gas in the last 5 years alone. But every cent of it counts towards GDP. So when the gas industry says gas is a big contributor to GDP, they're right. They are right. But in the same way Robert Kennedy was right when he said that, yeah, selling all those guns is good for GDP. Locking people up in prisons, good for GDP. Cleaning up pollution, good for GDP. GDP is not really the thing that we have to obsess about. Even if you wanted to obsess about it, even if that was your number one goal, even if all you cared about was money, it seems a bit odd that a country like Australia would be so reckless as to treat the fossil fuel industry in that way. So I'm going to leave plenty of time for questions tonight. I'll tell you now, one of the main questions people ask me is, why? So don't ask me that. But let me try to answer that question before you ignore me and ask me why. That's because the people we elect are okay with this. This is not secret. This is not secret. This is not unknown. What is unknown is the why we do it, which is why I'm reluctant to answer. But I've been talking about this stuff for a long time, and I spend a fair bit of time overseas. And, when I talk to people overseas, they're like, oh, Richard, that was funny, that was persuasive, but I don't believe you, it can't be that bad. And it's taken me years to figure out how to talk to people overseas about how dumb we are. And then I realized every country does a dumb thing. Every country does a dumb thing. Go to America and say, I'm not sure that machine guns are making you safe. And they look at you like you're an idiot. So I think you should ban guns, and maybe you wouldn't have mass killings of kids in your schools all the time. And they look at you like you're an idiot. I don't know why you're laughing. You know it's true. Because every country does a dumb thing. And in America, the dumb thing they've done for a long time was kill each other. And when you show up saying, everyone doesn't do that everywhere else, they're like, no, don't really care about any other countries. So that's their dumb thing. The Japanese been killing whales for a long, long time. Why? They're not sure. But they hate it when you tell them to stop. Japan has shredded so much diplomatic credibility with a determination to keep killing whales. They have to subsidize it. Doesn't make any money. At one point, they were trying to make their school kids eat whale. But it's become a point of national pride. You can't stop them. So my point is, every country does a dumb thing. And when you show up in some other country and say, why don't you just, make guns illegal? They say, you don't understand how hard the politics is. You don't understand the National Rifle Association. You don't understand. So we just need to understand that there is no other explanation. There is no other explanation for why Australia is determined to cause climate change by increasing coal and gas production. There is no other explanation for why we're determined to increase coal and gas production when we don't even make much money out of it. Then that's our dumb thing. But it's our elected leaders that we've let get away with this. Now, imagine, and this is going to sound patronizing, apologies in advance, don't know how else to do it, but imagine you've wound up elected to the Northern Territory Parliament, and you've wound up the Resources Minister in the Northern Territory by stacking a branch and winning an election, and your job is now to negotiate with Chevron. What do you reckon is going to happen? This is sad to tell you this, but our elected representatives have just been played. They've just been conned. They've just been suckered. And it's kind of easy to say, oh, it's because the, fossil fuel companies donated some money to the party or something. I don't think donations from fossil fuel companies to politicians are a good idea. But that doesn't even come close to explaining this. Most of the fossil fuel donations to the political parties are like $200,000-$300,000. Nothing, exactly. That's how cheap we are. That's how cheap we are. Now, I mean this in all seriousness. If I thought it was just donations, by the end of this week, I'd have cobbled together probably $20 million, and I would donate it to any political party that would stop fossil fuel expansion. Like that. No party would take my money. No, you've got to understand this. This is important. Because it's not about the donations. It's so much worse than that. It's so much worse than that. Like, they actually think it's important, whatever it is they're doing. It's actually part of their sense of self. They've actually internalized the idea that helping Chevron is helping Australia, that helping BP is helping Australia. But to be clear, this is just climate denial, right? You've got the UNFCCC, you've got the UN Secretary General, you've got the International Energy Agency. all of them, saying that if we've got any chance of preventing dangerous climate change, we need to stop building new coal and gas. And here we are, less than a week away from a federal election, where both major parties are proud that they support the expansion of coal and gas in Australia. I promise you, it's not the donations. So I really implore you to not ask me why. But if you come up with a nuance on why, I'll have a crack. Thank you very much. I did this in the wrong order. I'm interrupting my own applause. There's a microphone up the front. We've got about half an hour. Very happy to take questions. Please, be polite to other people. Try not to turn it into a speech. I'll try to give short answers. But if anyone wants to come up and ask a question, please do. While you're gathering your thoughts, we've just got a quick video I want to play. Hannah, can we just give you a little bit of what the Australia Institute's been up to while you're figuring out how to not ask why, while asking why?
I think it's very important to have a think tank, a group, looking at the overarching principles. One of the things that makes it special is that it encompasses all the issues confronting Australia.
The Australia Institute, it's revealed that 2/3 of people in this country believe corruption is common. The Australia Institute shows 90% support for rules around truth in political advertising. More than half of the gas exported from Australia is royalty-free, according to research from think tank the Australia Institute. The Australia Institute.
The Australia Institute.
The Australia Institute.
If we collect more tax and lower the price of energy, lower the price of medicine, lower the price of childcare, lower the price of going to the doctor, you know what we'll do? We'll lower inflation.
The question isn't whether Australia has the capacity to lead with integrity. The question is whether the people in this building have the courage to do it.
Poverty is a policy choice. These are things that can be addressed. We know how to do them.
I and others would argue that actually more often than not, Australia's relationship with the United States makes us less safe.
This great submarine deal is almost certainly going to result in us having no submarines. It's a terrible, terrible mistake. Government has to change its view.
Destruction of native forests.
Australia is one of the biggest consumers of fashion per capita in the world.
Climate integrity.
A whistleblower protection authority.
Record profits and price gouging.
90% of Australians are saying, we think this is a good idea. Our parliament could do its job.
To have institutions like the Australia Institute doing original research that underpins the arguments of those who want to reconstitute the dream of democracy, that is the greatest gift to anyone who wants to keep the idea of democracy alive.
Ow. Pretty cool, huh? I really feel proud of that video, but here's why. It's not that we can't get these messages out. It's not that a lot of other people don't agree with them. It's that we haven't yet created enough pressure on our delegates, on the people we put into Parliament, to act on the things that we want. Don't know if we'll get there or not, but you're not alone in thinking we should. Okay, first question. There's a bit of a line behind you, so that's why we'll all have to be quick.
Sure. Great presentation, Richard. Great admirer of the work the Institute does, and keep it up. So your presentation suggested that policymakers around the world are dim, and I think most people in this audience will probably agree with you. However, you also mentioned Norway, and they have policymakers that aren't quite as dim as us. So I wondered if you'd like to comment on that and the possibilities of doing something when most of the people in the most powerful countries in the world, US, China, etc., are a bit dim. So what do you think about that? And a supplementary question, if I may, because I know you'll have a good answer to this. What do you think about degrowth theory and its possibility that it can change the world and people will actually buy into that as a way of saving the world?
All right. Are policymakers a bit dim? No. Humans are a bit dim. And policymakers are human. I don't know about you guys, but I've wasted money in my lifetime. I've made reckless decisions. I've done things I'm not proud of. And that's okay. And indeed, if you went to your accountant and asked you how much money you should spend on your family holiday, you probably wouldn't get a very interesting answer. But if you want to spend a lot of money on a holiday, or you want to buy yourself some nice shoes or whatever, knock your socks off. Countries as rich as Australia can waste money on anything they want. That's what being rich is. If we want to drop a lazy 360 billion on submarines, we can. That's how rich we are. It's $360 billion. And when Josh Frydenberg was asked, can we afford it? He said, you can always afford it if it's a priority. So I know that you think your partner has wasted money in your home. I know you think that your parents or your children have wasted money on things. You think, what the hell were they thinking? Oh, why wouldn't countries waste money? We don't have to be hyper-rational all the time, but we do have to own the consequences of our choices. So I don't think policymakers are dim. I think policymakers are responding to the pressures they're under. And the fossil fuel industry has been much better at putting pressure on our policymakers than the person sitting next to you has. So the policymakers aren't being dim, they're being smart. They're responding to the pressures they're under. And until we put more pressure on them to change their mind, they'll keep doing it. In the same way that my kids will continue with all the bad habits that I tell them to stop. They don't listen. But when I tell them I won't give them any pocket money, they change their minds. You've got to put pressure on people if you really want them to change. As for degrowth, look, that's a big question. But to be clear, economic. I have kind of a radical view on this. I don't think economic growth is good or bad. I think it's irrelevant. And I think the shape of our economy matters so much more than the size. And I don't think we have to shrink the economy to make ourselves happier or healthier. Because get this, imagine if we we banned new coal and gas expansion tomorrow, we taxed the bejesus out of the gas and coal companies that are still there, and we took all the money that we taxed from them and spent it on public transport and public housing and free childcare and rolled out enormous amounts of renewable energy. Do you know what would happen to the economy if we did that? I'm happy. I'm not pursuing degrowth. I'm pursuing a radically different shape of the economy we're in. And when we're stuck on the size of it, we fall for this nonsense like, that's why you have to let me build a gas project that will ruin the planet. So I don't think economic growth is good. I don't think economic decline is good. I think we need to think about, what are we doing? Economics 101, tax things you want less of, subsidize things you want more of. Not complicated. Next. Oh, thanks. I'm trying to keep the spotlight out of the eyes.
Thank you. Yeah, that's good. Keep your legs together.
In case people think I'm standing funny, it's on purpose.
Thank you, Richard. Great presentation. We are going to have Woodside's annual general meeting in Perth next week. Woodside is our big bogey, huge gas expansion, which is at risk of destroying the Kimberley and Scott Reef and the whole of the Browse Basin. It's dreadful. Now, I just wanted to ask for your comments about non-violent direct action. How effective? We've got a great group of people here in Disrupt Burrup Hub. Some of them will be here tonight. They do a great job, prepared to really put themselves in the front line. Now, we saw what happened when Bob Brown took his convoy up to stop Adani. You know, there was a lot of criticism about that. But how effective do you think non-violent direct action actually is in putting on that pressure that you just spoke of?
Yeah, the short answer is, I think democracy thrives on high expectations, that we have to care about our democratic outcomes and we have to put as much effort into our democracy as we can. One way of doing that is voting. One way is going to see your MP. And one way is non-violent disruptive protest. And to be clear, that's what the suffragettes did. To be clear, that's what the ANC did to end apartheid. That's what the unions did with the green bands that saved the rocks in Sydney. That's what Bob Brown did to save the Gordon below Franklin River. Now, I tell you what, remember I said at the beginning, the most powerful message the right has got is it's pointless. It's pointless. If protest was pointless, they wouldn't be making it illegal. So you laugh. If it was pointless, they'd let you waste your time. In South Australia, some people protested when the gas industry were having a big conference there a year or so back. Some people think, oh, you can't make things happen these days, all politics, all parliament, all logjam. In South Australia, after a day of protest about gas, the South Australian Parliament changed the law within 24 hours to create fines and incarceration for peaceful protest. Within 24 hours. That's how ineffective protest is. So, yeah, absolutely. Ask Senator David Pocock, who bolted his head on to mining equipment before he became a senator when he was the captain of the Wallabies. Ask Bob Brown whether he regrets getting arrested trying to save things. Again, suffragettes. Again, I can see, history tells us that it takes pressure to get change and that power will push back. So, you bet. How about a round of applause for those guys?
Richard, thank you so much. I'm looking for an example on what we can do that's Australia specific. So my question is there another industry that's quite prominent in Australia that we should maybe model some legislative controls on for the fossil fuel industry?
Oh, let me clarify. You mean, have we succeeded somewhere and now we just need to roll it out to fossil fuels?
I think so, yes, in terms of import-export, in terms of being able to get the revenue that we deserve, that we need.
Yeah, absolutely. Well, I mean, so the history of democracy is actually this. Once upon a time, the tobacco industry took out television ads telling you that smoking was good for your health. Good for your health. And then when people started to say they were bad for your health, they put filters on or said, no, well, maybe some are, but the filtered ones are good and the menthol ones are even better. So people have been lying in order to profit from killing us for a long, long time. We used to mine asbestos and it killed people. We know how to fix these things. Just last year, the Parliament changed the law to ban those synthetic stone bench tops. Because you know what happens to the workers who install them? Silicosis. It's horrible. So you know what we did? We banned it. This is really complicated. There was a dangerous thing and we didn't want people to die, so we banned it. You follow me with this? You know what? You know how we stopped whaling? By stopping whaling. Shall I go back over that? No, but you see the trick. You see the trap we've fallen into now. And do you know what happened to the whaling part of the economy when we banned whaling? It shrank. And we're still here. All right. And you know what happened to the asbestos part of the economy when we banned asbestos? It shrank. This is not an unintended consequence. It's the point. But somehow now we're supposed to figure out a way to get ourselves off fossil fuels without getting off fossil fuels. I'm not that smart. Can't figure that one out. I like to keep things simple. Look, there's lots of things that we've done over time. And Australia's led the world on these things. When Nicola Roxon, the former Labor Health Minister, introduced plain packaging legislation, which, put those hideous photos on the packet of cigarettes, made them not quite fun. This was we were the first country in the world to do that. And the world tobacco industry took us to the World Trade Organization, used all sorts of international laws to try and stop us, and they failed. Right? They failed. As a nation state, we stood up and we did something. So that's the point. We actually need to be brave. We don't need to ask for permission to stop doing something that kills us. They need our permission to kill us. No, we have an approvals process. where we approve them doing dangerous things. By the way, have you figured out that it's called the approvals process, not the decision-making process? Because you know what the end result always is? Yes. And they complain when the approvals process takes too long. How about no? So that's how to do it. Say no. Next.
Hello, thank you. My name's Amy. I'm the federal candidate for the Greens in the election coming up. And thank you. Thank you for your presentation. I was really interested and happy to hear you say that it is an ideological issue that we haven't been able to get off the gas in our state. So my question is, well, today the Greens announced that we would block any new fossil fuel projects in a minority government arrangement. So clearly so much is at stake at this election. And how critical is it that we aim for that minority Labor government? And how excited are you that we might have a powerful crossbench that does not feel ideologically attached to fossil fuels?
Wow. I'm an old-fashioned Democrat, and in all sorts of ways. I once worked for the Democrats. Anyone old enough to remember them? I was Natasha Stott-Despoy's chief of staff. So if you ever wondered what went wrong, that was me. I take responsibility. No one else ever did. It must have been me. But I think democracy is so important because the alternatives really are quite horrible. And what we need in a democracy is to elect people to our parliament who make decisions that are in our best interests. And in Australia, we've kind of fallen into this belief that the only way for democracy to work is for one club to win a majority of seats in parliament and then just talk to people in that club for 3 years and make laws that people in that club are happy with. And then every 3 years we get to maybe change clubs. Now, to be clear, that's okay. There's nothing in the Constitution says we can't do it that way. But it's just not how most countries' democracies work. And it's not even how most state governments in Australia are formed. Anyone here heard of New South Wales? Well, it's a long way away, I know. It's in a minority government at the moment. Chaos, I tells you. Chaos. I live in the People's Republic of the ACT. We've been in a minority government for nearly 20 years. It's hell. So many fucking roundabouts. Right? And anyone heard of a little European country called Germany? Always in minority government. New Zealand, anyone heard of it? Right? So this is normal. It's not right or wrong. It's not good or bad. It's just normal. And, I don't mind who people vote for, Maybe that's not quite true. But I respect your right to do it. I really do. It's really important that we respect other people's right to vote. But what's really weird in Australia, after decades of hearing on election night, the leader of one club say, yes, the voters always get it right, and the media always say, oh, the voters always get it right. And this is really interesting. I don't know if you've thought hard about concession speeches. Concession speeches are so important because there's no umpire. There's no umpire. So what's crucial in our democracy is on election night, the loser stands up and says, I lost. That's why they go first. So there's no ambiguity, right? There's no judge. There's no umpire. It's us. And on election night, the loser stands up and says, oh, I tried my best, and the voters always get it right, and blah, 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 try to say a polite thing. What's this got to do with things? Well, in Australia, we've now got a political culture where people are reluctant to say the voters got it right. Because if you vote for a minor party or an independent, a lot of people will tell you got it wrong. This is dangerous. Because we're not actually making the concession speech anymore. Okay, so if a third of people are voting for minor parties and independents, if the number of minor parties and independents on the crossbench is growing and growing and growing, there's no concession speech from either major party saying, fair enough, voters got it right. This is really important. So what do I think? I just think that we've watched the two big clubs really struggle to solve certain issues like fossil fuel expansion. We've watched them really struggle to tackle issues like gambling. We've watched them really struggle to deal with things like junk food advertising. And we know that 90% of people want this fixed. But for whatever reason, when those two clubs are just swapping who's in the big chair, they haven't done a good job of fixing those problems. Doesn't mean they've done a terrible job of everything. Australia's one of the richest countries in the world. We've done all right. But our political system has been unable to tackle climate change. It's been unable to tackle Indigenous inequality. It's been unable to tackle domestic violence. It's been unable to tackle some really big problems. And that's why I think a lot of people are voting for someone else, because they want to see some change. And no one party or candidate's going to have all the answers and get it right. But that logjam of the two major parties has clearly failed to tackle some big problems. So it doesn't surprise me that a lot of people who want to change the country are willing to change their vote.
Yeah.
Hi, Richard. Thank you for your clarity as always, and thank you for the wonderful work the Australian Institute is doing to analyse what's happening and to make a clear picture of what's happening. I'd like to hear a bit more about the solution, and you hinted at it just now about climate change economics 101, tax the things you need less of, subsidize the things you need more of. You write quite a bit about pricing pollution, pricing carbon, but we as a nation we're still very timid about talking about it because of the defeat of the last carbon price we had. I wonder, when are we going to feel it's urgent enough to again reach for that very powerful instrument to be able to address this issue and related issues of carbon pollution across the nation?
Oh, look, great question. I don't know, but it's going to require bravery on the part of voters and bravery on the part of the people that we elect to parliaments to do these things. To be clear, tax things you want less of, subsidise things you want more of. Pretty much every kind of mainstream media outlooks, any conservative commentator worth their salt wants to tell you how we have to have real structural tax reform in Australia. We need to make the big changes. We need to do the big structural things. I'm like, great. How about we tax the bejesus out of pollution then? Oh, no, didn't mean that. What did you mean? Oh, something about bracket creep? So when we hear people say we need big structural tax reform, you all need to agree with them. You need to say, you bet, let's tax the bejesus out of the fossil fuel industry and cut personal income taxes for low-income earners, and wouldn't Australia be better off? And they'll say, no, that's not what we had in mind. We were hoping to cut the company tax rate and crack down on welfare cheats. So my point is, when are we going to do it? I don't know, whenever we feel brave enough to do it. But there's nothing complicated about doing this. John Howard introduced the GST. That was hard because every small business in the country had to become a tax collector. That was hard. Slapping a tax on fossil fuel exports is a piece of piss. There aren't that many of them, right? And we can measure it precisely. So when are we going to do it? I don't know. Next week, I hope. But we won't do it until enough of us are brave enough to demand it, and enough of the people we put into Parliament are brave enough to do it.
Hi. I'm glad you just mentioned John Howard, because that was one example where a politician did decide he was going to bring in something like the GST, and he had the courage to actually sell the idea. And that's what my question's about, and I'm glad the previous people sort of talked about it around about what's failing us in our politics. because I'm always yelling at that TV screen. And this is what I think, and I'm just going to suggest it to you. I think we lack salesmanship in politics. There's no politician that can sell an idea, not in our current mob. And I wonder, first of all, do you agree? And even if you do, is there anybody that you see as being a good salesperson to sell an idea and to sell it to the country and to the nation?
I'm going to bank some questions and try and get out of here slightly on time. So, all right, salesmanship and John Howard. Next. I won't forget. I'll just answer them all at once.
Richard, insurance.
Yeah.
I'm an insurance analyst for a consumer advocacy org. I do a lot of talkback radio. The only thing people care about on talkback radio, at least, is the price of insurance. The only thing I can say to those people is shop around, really. So I guess my question is, like, how can consumers, but also governments, work to having those that are actually causing those rises of insurance, climate polluters, are then actually paying towards those insurance premiums?
Yep, great. All right, salesmanship and then selling insurance. I like it. Okay, fire away.
Hi, Richard.
Hi.
My question is about jobs. It links into our sense of identity. We are told, especially by our current state premier, that in supporting these industries, we create jobs for our people. And I'd love to know what figures exist around that. How many jobs are in those industries for Western Australians, including the service industries that support that? I've lived here most of my life. My take is that the mining industry, that includes fossil fuel. So you've sort of got to break that down. But it's a big part of our world. And how do we tell people to stop those jobs? I've stopped working as a corporate lawyer because I can't do it.
Yeah, great. All right. And one cheeky last question.
Hi, Richard. I watched you on Q&A a few weeks ago.
I'm sorry they didn't let me talk.
And I was so frustrated. You were the only one who made sense on that show. But Patricia Carvelis kept sidelining you. I felt it said so much about the so-called impartiality of the national broadcaster. And I just wondered, did you take it to task afterwards?
All right. Well, I'll go backwards through them and I won't take too long and then I'll let everyone go. Look, Q&A have been not having me on for 15 years. No, I'm not kidding. Like, there's not a TV show in the country I haven't been on. I haven't been on Q&A once until the other night. And what a coincidence. I was on the night that had 5 guests. So there wasn't much time, and there were 2, a minister and a shadow there that got all the questions. But you know what? I've been doing this for a long time, been teaching economics for 30 years. I've never believed that the longer you talk, the more persuasive you are. So I don't care that Patricia interrupted me, because letting other people drone on like that kind of makes my point. I mean that. So, yeah, we live in a really, really rich country, and we use things like the housing crisis to conceal important conversations. Like, has it occurred to you that we don't have a housing crisis because the houses are fine? The houses are fine. Poor people wanting houses, that's a crisis. We're not talking about them. How about that? We could have a whole election about housing without mentioning poverty, without mentioning inequality or negative gearing. Or let me break it down really simply. If house prices rise faster than wages, and you don't own a house, you're stuffed. That's it. Everything else is details. A young person earning average weekly wages who 10 years ago, when Joe Hockey was asked, what about access to housing? He said, get a good job. That was the Treasurer's advice 10 years ago to young people that were worried about housing. He said, get a good job. Well, if you got a good job 10 years ago and you saved 15% of your income every week for the last 10 years, you'd be $1,000 further away from the necessary deposit than you were 10 years ago. Because if house prices are rising faster than wages, you know what happens to deposits when house prices go up? Deposits go up. It's really complicated, isn't it? So we're lying to everybody. We're pretending that we know there's a housing crisis. We're in the middle of a housing crisis. We're building holiday homes for the holiday homeless. We're not building homes for the homeless. We know that's not going to happen. But yet we go through the farce of pretending that we're going to fix these big problems. We're not. So anyway, I think anyone watching Q&A probably didn't turn off thinking, oh, I think one of the major parties has got this sorted. And to be clear, they don't want to sort it because rising house prices make 2/3 of Australians happy and 1/3 of Australians sad. And if you were trying to win a majority of seats, would you want to upset 2/3 of people? No. So talking about housing, that's important. But fixing it, yeah, that's not going to happen. The question came up about jobs. So there's lots to say about this, and everyone thinks that their job's important. Everyone thinks their dad's job's important. Everyone wants their kids to have a job one day. My training is in labour market economics. I very much care about jobs and inequality. But to be clear, just choosing my words carefully here, 99% of Australians don't work in the fossil fuel industry. 99% of Australians don't. Now, can you find me a town somewhere where it's only 90? Maybe 80% of people don't work? Yeah, maybe. Find a small town with a big mine in it. But the thing about the mining industry is high vis. I'm not kidding. They walk around in effing high vis. And everyone's like, oh, they're everywhere. Right. Far, far more people work in health. Far more people work in education. Far more people work in restaurants. Far more people work. But I know what you're about to say. But they're not the real jobs, Richard. They're not the backbone of the economy jobs. And when you say your backbone, you do that. You say strong. We need to keep the economy strong. And that's men in high vis. And they're the real jobs, and they create all the other jobs. What crap. What absolute crap. If for a minute you thought that we were trying to maximize jobs in Australia with the gas industry, wouldn't you tax it and spend all that money here in Australia on teachers and nurses and train drivers and everything else? If you wanted to turn all that money the gas industry makes into jobs, you know what would do it? Tax. Oh, okay, fine. So there's this kind of incredible sort of masculinist view of the economy that somehow mining jobs, manufacturing jobs, they're the proper ones. You know how much mining they have in Japan? None. Spineless. No backbone. They all walk around going, what do you do? I don't know. Anyone here got a real job? Nah. Right, this is weird. All right, but every country does a dumb thing. And we've kind of convinced ourselves that every other job is based on this tiny number of jobs in a small number of industries. Tiny number of jobs. More people work at McDonald's than work in coal and gas combined. McDonald's. More people work at Anglicare and Uniting Care. But they're not the real jobs. What are the real jobs? The real jobs are the real jobs that help Impex make a fortune not paying a cent in tax in Australia. Not so much. Can't convince everyone on that, but yeah, real jobs, don't know what they are. Insurance. Fun thing about insurance, doesn't matter what anyone thinks about climate change. One thing I promise you is your insurance company believes in it. Your insurance company has no climate skeptics in it. But here's the thing, I'm going to depress you a little bit here. Here's the thing about insurance. People think, oh, well, you know, if climate change was a big deal, the insurance companies would have fixed it by now. No. Insurance are short-term contracts. When you insure your house, how long do you insure it for? A year. Doesn't mean the insurance company doesn't think in 5 years' time or 10 years' time your suburb's in real trouble. Insurance company's going to sell you insurance this year and next year and next year and next year until what? It doesn't. And then you're like, but I've been paying insurance for 30 years. And they're like, yep, the good 30. But I'm really worried now because sea level rise and storm surge, my house is at a lot of risk. And they're like, that's why we're not insuring it, mate. Insurance is a short-term bet. When you insure your car, you're betting you're going to crash it. And the insurance company are betting you're not going to crash it. And there aren't many people who at the end of the year think, idiot, I didn't crash my car. Wasted my money again. All right, we haven't really thought too hard about this, have we, right? So you're betting that your house won't burn down. So you're betting this year your house will burn down. You're betting that a storm will destroy it. You're betting a flood will destroy it. And the insurer's like, I don't think that's very likely, but I'll have your money. The minute climate change affects your suburb in a way that's measurable, and here's the thing, the minute that damage is likely, you can't get insurance. You can only insure against unlikely events. You can only insure against unlikely events. The minute it's likely, the insurance company says, no, I can help you out with health insurance. Right, I can help you out with theft insurance. But the storm and the flood damage, nah, you're on your own. So this is why Australia should be right now, today, doing everything we can to get as much money off these fossil fuel companies as we can and start spending in the adaptation space, because we know what's going to happen and the insurance companies know what's going to happen. It just might not have occurred to you that the insurance companies don't care because they're not making a long-run bet on the safety of your house. They're making a short-run bet. Now, to salesmanship. Somehow you didn't know that. Somehow, after 20 years of people talking about the climate crisis, most Australians didn't realise that we were giving away $170 billion worth of gas for free, and that when push comes to shove, the insurance companies are going to leave us on our own. That's what climate change looks like. The fossil fuel companies say, thanks, that was great. The insurance companies go, thanks, that was great. And we look around and go, how am I going to afford to look after myself? And they go, not my problem. So if, and it's a big if, but if we're serious about the science of climate change, really simple what we need to do. And if, and it's a big if, we're serious about the economics of climate change, it's really obvious what we need to do. We need to fall over dead. So I'm going to wrap it up on this point. What do we need to do? We need to stop approving new coal and gas. This is not complicated. We're still not just building new coal and gas, we're still exploring. We're still looking for gas reservoirs that haven't been found yet. And when I say we, I mean your taxpayers' money is paying for it. So we need to stop looking for more oil and gas. We need to stop approving new coal and gas. We need to stop subsidising fossil fuel expansion. And if we just did that, if we just stopped subsidising fossil fuels, we'd be $15 billion up next year. Then if we started to put taxes on the fossil fuel exports, we'd be swimming in cash. We gave away $170 billion worth of gas for free. If we only charged 10%, that'd be $17 billion. Stephen Miles did this in Queensland in the lead up to the last election. He increased the taxes on coal and he spent the money on free public transport and free public housing. It was popular. He was supposed to get wiped out at that election. He ended up doing really quite well. So if we care about the science, if we care about the economics, we need to stop doing the dangerous things. We need to tax the dangerous things. We need to stop subsidising the dangerous things. We need to spend the money on the people and the things that need it. It's really simple. And to wrap up, every year, the most boring night of the year, budget night, economists' Christmas. You know what the budget is? It's the who's going to get the $700 billion. Every year, we spend $700 billion on health and education and aged care and NDIS and fossil fuel subsidies and all sorts of things. Every year we spend $700 billion. But because we're one of the lowest tax countries in the world, if we increased the amount of tax we collected to just make us average, we'd collect $140 billion a year extra every year. And that would just make us average. That's why we feel poor, even though energy prices have gone through the roof. Because the companies that are selling the energy are making a fortune and all of their profits count towards our GDP. And we're running around fighting each other over scraps and $360 billion for AUKUS submarines. That's how rich we are. We can give away gas, we can have submarines, we can subsidise fossil fuels. We just can't afford to help women fleeing domestic violence. Of course we can afford it. It's just that the person sitting next to you keeps voting for the wrong representative. Thank you very much.
Thanks for watching. If you'd like to keep up to date with all our latest research and work, sign up to our newsletter. Delivered every fortnight, it includes behind-the-scenes updates from Richard Dennis, an exclusive cartoon from Judy Horacek, details for our upcoming events and webinars, as well as explainers, graphs, and not to mention the latest cutting-edge research and analysis from the team here on the key issues that are facing Australia. Click the button on your screen to check it out.